Today, I want to show you something called the Rule of 55. It's a legal exception buried in the retirement rules, and it lets folks with $2 million or more walk away from work up to 7 years early. 7 years before the age everybody assumes is the finish line. I'll show you the exact conditions that make it work and the 2 mistakes that wreck it for people who almost had it. I've spent 3 decades walking successful executives through their exit from work, and this is one of the most powerful tools I know for retiring early. It's also one of the least understood. You see, most folks have never even heard of it, and plenty of the ones who have still lose it. And they lose it on a single piece of routine paperwork that nobody warned them about. So that's what I'm going to walk you through today. I'm going to walk you through how the rule works, who qualifies and who doesn't, the traps that kill it, and how to build your whole early exit around it the right way. So let's get into it. Let me tell you about 2 people I worked with. Both of them were 55. Both had a little over $2 million saved, and almost all of it was locked up inside their company 401k. They both sat right across from me and said pretty much the same thing. I'm exhausted. I want out. I don't want to work anymore. One of them was a woman who got out at age 55. See, she got those 7 years back. The other, he stayed till 62. Same money, same job he was sick of. He ground out 7 more years in a chair he couldn't wait to leave. The difference between the 2 of them wasn't discipline. It wasn't their portfolio. It wasn't their number that they had saved. See, people always assume the same thing here, that the one who got out early knew some secret the other one didn't. And that's not it. They both could have walked out at 55. The door was right there for both of them. The difference was one of them knew the part that comes after the rule, the part that decides whether it actually works or whether it blows up in your face. You see, he never knew that part. By the time he found out, those 7 years were already gone. Let me give the rule in plain English. Normally, if you take money out of a retirement account before you're 59 and a half, you pay a 10% penalty. And that's on top of, unfortunately, the regular income tax. You see that penalty? That's what I'm calling the wall. It's a wall, and it's the reason almost everyone assumes their biggest account is locked up until they're basically 60 years old. You see, the rule of 55, it's the door into that wall. If you leave your employer in or after the calendar year you turn 55, you can pull it out of that employer's 401k, and there's no penalty. None at all. No 10%. You see, leaving means leaving for any reason. You could retire, you could resign, they could lay you off. It doesn't matter why you left, it only matters when you leave. So that's the rule. It's simple. And I'm going to show you exactly how it works. But the rule was never the hard part. The hard part is what you do with it once you know it exists. By the way, my name is Chris McClure, and I've been a financial advisor for 31 years. I put these videos together about once a week. And hopefully it's good information for high net worth families who have worked too hard to leave money on the table. Once I tell people about the rule of 55, it's kind of funny. They start doing the math in their head right in my office. They didn't know about it, but that exit was sitting right there in front of them the whole time. And there's a question. The question is, why does this matter so much at 2 million? Another question is, why does this rule of 55 matter so much at 2 million and up? You see, at that level, most of the money's inside their 401k plan. That 401k, it's the big one. That wall wasn't in front of some side account, some checking account or savings account. It's in front of most of their money. And the prize for knowing the rule and taking advantage of it is typically around 7 years. 7 years in retirement. Those aren't ordinary years either. That's peak health, right? 55. Peak energy. For a lot of those folks, that's peak burnout too, after careers that have taken everything out of them for a long time. I walked one of them out at 55 and I watched the other one stay till 62. And what's interesting is they did not show up to retirement with the same amount of energy. Sometimes an extra 7 years feels like a really long time. So let me tell you about the one who stayed and worked. His name's Paul. Paul was a senior operations guy at a manufacturing company. He was 55 years old. He was right around 2.3 million. And like most people at that level, almost all of it was sitting in his 401k. He was done. His body was tired. He was traveling all the time. And it took its toll on him. He'd wanted to retire for a couple of years, but he couldn't just figure it out. So he stayed. He kept grinding. He kept telling himself, just 4 more years. You see, nobody ever told Paul the door was already open. He qualified for the rule of 55 that whole time, and he never knew it. And like I said earlier, the way the rule works is the timing is calendar based. You've got to separate from your employer in or after the year you turn 55. Somebody who leaves in January of the year they turn 55, they qualify months before their actual birthday. So if you're born in December and you retire in January, you can actually retire at 54. You see, it's the calendar year that counts, not the day that you blow out the candles. The second thing you need to know is that the rule only applies to the 401k at the employer that you left. So it's not for your IRAs. It's not the old 401k sitting at a job you had 12 years ago. It's only the plan you walked away from. And there's something you can do here that most people never really even think of. That money sitting in those old accounts, you can actually sometimes roll them into your current 401k plan before you separate. And you do this while you're still working. And now those dollars are under the rule of 55 too. You see, it's got to happen while you're still there. And once you've left that window of rolling that money over, unfortunately, it shuts. And so no one ever told Paul. So he kept working. It's interesting, when somebody's planning an exit, the first thing I do is I go account by account. What can you actually reach? What dollars are you able to access? Which dollars are in play? You see, at this level, which dollars you can reach matters a lot more sometimes than how many dollars you've actually got. And there are a couple other ideas that are worth knowing. The rule takes away the penalty, but it doesn't take away the tax. You see, so every dollar that you pull is still ordinary income. It solves getting to the money. It does nothing for the tax bill on that money. So I talked about Paul. Let's talk about the other one, the person who got out at 55. Her name is Dana. Dana was 54. She's a senior executive. She had $2.4 million, and nearly all of it was in the 401k. Same setup as Paul, right down the line, almost exactly the same. She was just as worn out, and she was just as ready to be done. She did one thing Paul didn't. She came in and we talked beforehand. She asked me some questions before she signed a single form. And it's a good thing because Dana was maybe 5 minutes from a mistake that could have cost her those same 7 years. And it wasn't the mistake that you'd think. You see, there are two mistakes that kill this rule. Most people who lose it don't lose it because they didn't qualify. They lose it to one of these two mistakes. And both of them happen with a signature. The first one is the rollover. At just about every job exit, the standard advice from anyone, a banker, a financial planner, an investment person, is roll over your 401k into an IRA. Clean it all up, get it in one place. It's what everybody tells you to do, and it makes sense. But for someone that's counting on the rule of 55, that tidy rollover, it blows the whole thing up. You see, the exception only holds while the money's still in that employer's 401k. The second that money lands in an IRA, you're right back under the normal 59.5 rules, penalty and all. That door to that wall now shuts. See, the worst part is nobody ever sees it happening. The exit paperwork shows up, there's a little box to check for the rollover, and that box gets checked. It makes sense, everyone does it. But unfortunately, when you check that box about the rollover, early retirement, rule of 55, it's dead. And typically nobody notices. And that's what Dana's paperwork said. It was sitting right there on my desk. The rollover box had already been checked. It was handed to her by someone who meant well, but had no clue about what it could cost her. You see, the second mistake is that they don't actually check the 401k document beforehand. They have a plan that won't cooperate. You see, that rule of 55, it only works if your employer's plan lets you take partial withdrawals after you leave. Some plans don't. Some plans are all or nothing. So think about what that would mean if you took all of your money out of the plan at once. If they make you take the whole balance out in one shot, and that balance is 7 figures, you'd be pulling all of it into a single tax year. And there's no penalty exception on earth that makes that okay. That tax bracket alone would be brutal. It could be 30, 40, 50%. So the plan document has to get checked before you resign, not after. And so we checked Dana's, and it was allowed. Partial withdrawals were allowed, so she was fine. And in fact, Paul's plan allowed them too. Paul just never asked whether his plan was allowed partial withdrawals. You see, nobody ever told him it was a question worth asking. And I want to pause here just for a second. So if you're an executive or an employee thinking about an exit before age 60, and you're not certain which of your accounts this rule actually covers, or whether your plans even cooperate, make sure to click a link below to book a call. My team and I would check exactly these details as the first step of every retirement plan. And the answers change everything for a potential retiree. So now let's talk about what the rule is actually for. Because penalty-free access is the door, and the plan, the actual plan to take money, is what allows us to walk through that door. So what's the rule actually for? It's for helping you get to the money, but that's just step one. The real job of the rule of 55 is funding what I call the bridge years. Okay, so let's think about it. It's the bridge years. It's those years before everything else in retirement shows up. Penalty-free IRA money, that's at 59 and a half. Social Security is in your 60s. Medicare, 65. So none of it's here yet. The bridge is just how you get from the day you walk out, if you walk out at 55, until all those benefits, Social Security, Medicare, IRA withdrawals, till those things actually kick in. So your income and spending plan in retirement is what determines how much you take out using the rule of 55. You pull out what the bridge needs, not a dollar more. And sometimes you have taxable accounts alongside the 401k. And if you blend the two, it usually means a lower tax bill than leaning on either one alone. So the tax layer is important as well. Every rule of 55 withdrawal is ordinary income. The bridge years need real bracket management, real tax bracket management. You're filling up those lower brackets on purpose. The 12%, the 22%. What you don't want is some careless withdrawals shoving the top of your income up into 32 or 35% tax rate, especially when a little planning would have kept you well under it. You see, the rule itself takes 10 minutes to explain, but it's the plan around it where the really money gets kept or it gets lost. So we got the rule, it gets you the money, and a good withdrawal plan, it keeps the tax bill down. But before we wrap up, the rule of 55 isn't the only way out early. And there are a couple other ideas you can use to help you build that bridge. There's the rule of 72T. So 72T allows you to pull money from an IRA before 59 and a half with no penalty, but it's only on a fixed schedule. You calculate that number based off your age and based on your balance, and then you're locked into that exact withdrawal every single year. It's the same amount, there's no skipping. And you keep it for 5 years or until you're 59 and a half, whichever is longer. Miss a payment or change the number and the penalties come roaring back retroactively, all the way to the first withdrawal plus interest. It works for plenty of people use it, but it's rigid and it's unforgiving in a way that the rule of 55 just isn't. Then there's the simplest bridge of them all, and that's just taxable brokerage money. Maybe a checking account, a savings account, income from real estate, or maybe it's your investment accounts. There's no age rules, better tax rates, and that's why some executives with strong taxable balances never even need the rule of 55 at all. But the fact is usually it's not just one option. It's a ranking of options. You want to rank which ones make the most sense for you from a tax perspective and also from a withdrawal perspective. I put all three of those strategies in front of somebody side by side before a single piece of paperwork gets signed or moved. So the rule has alternatives and the right answer depends on your accounts. It depends on your plan document and it depends on your bridge. So let's close with the checklist because everything in this video converts into 5 checks you can start this week. Check number 1 is the calendar math. Confirm your separation lands in or after the year you turn 55. Remember that January thing. It's the year that counts, not just the birthday. Check 2 is the account map. Which balances are in your current employer's plan? Which ones are sitting in IRAs and old plans? And can you roll those old plans into your current plan before you leave? And that actually strengthens your retirement position. Check number 3 is to check the plan document of the 401k itself. You have to confirm that allows for partial withdrawals after you separate. Whether your plan allows partial withdrawals decides whether this rule even works for you at all. Check number 4 is the bridge budget. What you spend mapped against the withdrawal plan and the tax brackets it's going to create. Check 5 is the alternatives. You want to do some math. You want to make sure that the rule of 55 actually beats using a 72T or your taxable accounts in your specific situation. So let's get back to Dana. Those 5 checks, she'd run every single one of them before she ever picked up that pen, which is why instead of signing, she asked questions. We caught the rollover box. We confirmed her plan allowed partial withdrawals. We mapped out that bridge idea. She walked out the door at 54, going on 55 penalty free. And she told me something on her way out. She said, I almost signed away 7 years without even knowing it. And obviously she was super happy that she did it right. Unfortunately, Paul never got that meeting. He knew the rule, but he never knew the part that comes after it. Nobody run that checklist with them. He had the same money. He had that same door that we talked about, same 7 years sitting right there. And he spent them, unfortunately, at his desk. You see, that's the whole reason I made this video. 31 years doing this work, and the difference always comes down to the same thing. The people who retire at 55 and the people who only could have, the gap between them is almost never money. It's that somebody showed them that door while there was still time to walk out. So now you know how the rule of 55 works. You know what it takes to qualify. You know the 2 mistakes that can wreck it, the rollover, and a plan that won't cooperate. And you know how the whole early exit gets built around it. So stop assuming 60 is the earliest you can go. Your own way out might already be sitting there. If you'd like me or my team to run these 5 checks on your actual accounts and your actual plan, there's a link below to book a call. Thanks a lot for watching today. I really love making these videos, and I'll see you on the next one.